Hi guys, this is James and welcome to Agile Sound Bites, where we explore bite-sized insights that will help on your Agile journey. You know, when I go into companies, I often see confusion around Agile artifacts and the Agile requirements model. So epics, features, stories, initiatives, they're called different names, but generally there tends to be confusion about them and how they kind of all interrelate. So today I wanted to provide a couple of insights that might help you get a little bit more understanding and ultimately more value from them. So organisations tend to have a 3 or a 4 level hierarchy, sometimes it's more. Today, let's assume a 3-level hierarchy. So at our top level, we're going to have epics, and they're going to get broken down into features, which in turn will get broken down into stories. So nice and simple, fairly common. The way that I like to think about them is I think about these artefacts in terms of 4 key dimensions. The first dimension is the size. The second dimension is the format. The third dimension is the owner. And the fourth dimension is the life cycle. So let's look at those 3 artifacts through those 4 dimensions. So starting with size, epics are the largest artifacts in our system. And typically they're going to be at least 12 or more weeks in terms of size. So if you want to get your head around an epic, we used to call them projects, okay? So it's kind of a project-sized piece of work. Could easily be 6+ months, and they're the biggest things in our system, okay? So always bigger than 12 weeks and possibly a lot bigger. So that's the epic. But epics get broken into features, and the rule of thumb for features is that a feature must fit within a 12-week cycle, okay? So if it's going to fit within a 12-week cycle, it needs to be somewhere between 1 and 4 sprints. If it's less than a sprint, then it's kind of getting into big story land. If it's bigger than 3 or 4 sprints, there's a high risk that you won't actually get it done within the 12-week period. So typically 1 to 4 sprints. Then we come down to stories. People tend to be a lot more comfortable with that. Everyone knows that stories need to be delivered within a sprint, so typically they're sized somewhere between 1 and 5 points, okay? So that's the size dimension. Let's move to our second dimension. Our second dimension is format. In other words, how do we write these artifacts? Do we all write them in the same way? And of course the answer is no. They serve a different purpose and they're each different. So one method to write up an epic is called an epic hypothesis statement. Now, I'm not going to go into the details of that format, but I will include a link at the end of this presentation if you would like more information. So with epic, we write it up as an epic hypothesis statement. With a feature, we tend to write that up with a short phrase, a benefits hypothesis statement, and some acceptance criteria. So that's the format for the feature. And then for the story, again, people tend to be a lot more comfortable with that. The format for a story is a standard user story, as a I want so that. So as a customer, I want something so that I can get some value, okay? So that's the size dimension. Now we've looked at the format dimension. The third dimension is owner. Does the same person own these artifacts in the enterprise? And of course the answer is no. So again, there'll be different names, role names, depending on which company you're in. But you could say an epic is owned by an epic owner, and a feature tends to be owned by what we call a product manager. And a story, of course, is owned by a product owner. So they each have different owners. The fourth and final dimension is life cycle. Do each of these artifacts go through the same life cycle from the time that they're first thought of to the time that they're delivered? Again, they follow different life cycles because they're coming in at different levels of our system, because they have different owners and they have different purposes. So whatever that life cycle is, the point is it needs to be captured on a Kanban board. So for example, if it was a story life cycle, it's going to be a very different life cycle than an epic life cycle. So we want to display a Kanban for each of the 3 levels. And of course, each of the key states in that life cycle get displayed as a column on that Kanban board. So hopefully you can see that thinking about our artifacts through those 4 different dimensions can add a lot more value and get more consistency across teams and programs in the enterprise in terms of how they use it. So I hope you found today's session valuable. If you've liked it, please click the like link below. And thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time. Bye for now.